and going back to church was torture. It was torture because I was still the leader in children's church. It was torture seeing children in church. It was torture having to answer all their tiny questions. It was torture having to explain to them how come I didn't come with a baby. They could ask me, Teacher Kate, you had a baby in your stomach. Where's the baby? Having to explain to them things that they didn't understand at that time. And then, when it's for grown-ups, when you're explaining to grown-ups, you'll explain once the story is shapo. But for kids, they will ask every Sunday. Today they will ask, Sunday they will ask, the following Sunday they'll ask, the other one they will ask because they don't understand. A different one will ask today, 2 minutes later when you're teaching, one of them will be lifting their hands and they're like, Teacher Kate, where is your baby? And you're like, really, it was really hard. But I didn't go to teach immediately. I had to take some time off. But even me meeting church members, it was still really hard because everyone has that look of wishy. I understand why they were wishing me, but it wasn't helping. So I couldn't even pray in church. My work was to cry. I was just crying to God, trying to understand where God was when that happened. How come he allowed? Why he did not repay me for the work that I had done in taking care of other children. Yeah, it happened. Hi guys, karibuni sana to the Beloved Show. We are so excited to be hosting another show today, and we know that you will get blessed. And I hope by the grace of God that this far you're getting to learn a lot. You're getting to see that the things you're going through, that you're not alone in them, that there are other people who are going through difficult issues as well, but they have learned to trust in God through it all. So today, before we begin, kindly allow me to read a verse that is speaking to me concerning what we are about to share today. And it comes from the book of Psalms 127 and verse 3. In the New King James Version, the Bible says, Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Amen. That is a powerful verse. It is well known, but it speaks to me concerning our topic for today. And today we are having a kind of out-of-the-box show where we are not hosting anyone. I'm the guest and I'm the host as well. I want to talk to us today about parenting. I want to give you my story or my journey concerning parenting, how parenting began for me, how it has been, as much as I'll be able to share, because I know there's people out there who have not begun this journey of parenting, and I will come across so many people who get to ask me so many questions about parenting. I've not been a parent for so long. It's been probably 13 years. Yes, 13 or 14 years. So it hasn't been very long. So I know there are people who have been there for much longer time, like 30, 50 and above. And by the grace of God, we will get to meet such people on the Beloved Show so that they can tell us their journey as well, so that they can tell us their highs, their lows, what they have learned, how they have had to trust in God for them to raise children, because out of experience, raising children is a blessing, but at the same time, it requires a lot from a person. As in, if you're not careful as a parent, if you're not careful as a mom, you can lose yourself in the process. But when you allow God to help you through it all, His grace is sufficient, and He gives you grace for you to be able to enjoy parenting. Like it doesn't become as work. It is work, yes, but you enjoy yourself in the process as you see your babies grow, as you see them come from infants, as you see them go all the way to toddlers, as in you get to enjoy all those stages by the grace of God. Failure to that, it can be so hard. It can lead to depression, especially if your babies are doremi, it can lead to a lot of things for a mom, even for a dad. So today I would want to talk to us about my journey as a parent, my journey as a mom. I thank God because I'm not a single mom. I thank God because I am married to Pastor Bob Wanjao, and being a mom has been easier because of his help. He has been a present dad by the grace of God. So at least tunasaidiana. So I wouldn't say I have done it all by myself. It has taken the grace of God, and it has taken a lot of help from my husband. So I will go all the way back to 2009. That is when I became a mom for the first time. I conceived in the year 2009. Hey, what a do. It feels like a million years ago. In the year 2008, because now our first baby was born in 2009 at September, date 23rd. Yes, date 23rd, 24th in a hepa kidogo, but anyway, that is it. So if I can try to paint a picture for you how it was, like me realizing that I was pregnant for the first time, it was a beautiful thing. Number one, I have always been in love with children. God has put a love for children inside of me. So when I got married in the year 2008, for me, it was always a desire to be able to get to that place of being a mom. And as I'm speaking like that, my heart goes out to all the women out there who are still believing in God for a child or for children. May God hear and answer those prayers, because I know children are a gift from God. We don't get them just because we have intimacy with our spouses. They are a gift from God. So my prayer goes to everyone who is believing in God to be a parent, that God would answer the prayers that they have, that God would give them the desires of their heart. So 2008, after we got married, a few months later, I believe about 3 months later, I conceived, and we began the journey of carrying our first baby. So it wasn't really an easy journey. All my pregnancies have not been easy. I'm the kind of a person where when I'm pregnant, I have a lot of, I'm usually very nauseated, as in morning sickness is in akwanga zangu. I don't know if it's in the mind. Someone was telling me that it is usually in the mind. I am not so sure about that. Probably a professional can help us on that. But for me, mine are usually so hectic, as in I puke all day, as in I will puke in the morning, I will puke over lunchtime, I will puke at night, I usually puke. There are people when they get pregnant, for the first 3 months, they usually like kind of hard, but then after the 3 months, inakuwa iko rahisi. But mine, I usually not like that. They're usually a lot of work. So the fact that I have as many babies as I have is because I love them, to the point that even after delivering and going through all the process, for me, I don't mind going back there again, because I just love having them. I just love holding my babies and raising them. So I enjoy the entire process, and I thank God for that. So the first pregnancy came, the first few months, probably all the way up to 7 months. It wasn't difficult. It was difficult, but it wasn't like life-threatening for the baby or for me. It was just the normal nausea, the normal puking, the normal not wanting to smell kitunguu and stuff, until the 7th month. So when we got to the 7th month, for some reason, I don't know, probably I overworked myself, but I almost had a premature labor. One night we had visited my dad and mom, Pastor Andrew and Kathy Mwangi, and we had spent a night in their place. They were not around, so at night I just got pain at my lower back and my lower abdomen, and it was really bad. And being my first pregnancy, I didn't know what to do. For some reason, I don't think we even called anyone for help. We didn't even call if we called anyone, I think it was my mother-in-law, to just ask what to do because of the pain that I was experiencing. So when the pain was ongoing, because I didn't know, I wasn't aware, instead of just rubbing my back, I was even rubbing my stomach, which now that I know, it is not advisable. Like when you're having premature labor, you're not supposed to rub your womb, your abdomen, the lower one, because now when you do that, it's like you're inducing labor even the more. So it was a long night, but thank God, morning came, and we went to the hospital that I was going for clinic. So we went there in the morning, and it was so hard going to that hospital. Back then, things were not really easy financially, so we could not even afford a taxi. So we took a tuk-tuk. I'm telling you, it was really hard. as in every pothole, every stone, tiny stone, I could feel it. It was so painful. But we got to the hospital. It wasn't really far from where we were staying. We got to the hospital. The nurses attended to me. They checked on the baby and realized that I was almost having a premature labor. I was almost like delivering the baby, though the baby wasn't fully developed. I believe I was at about 7 months. So from that, I thank God because the pain now went, and I was given bed rest. So for the next 2 months, I was given bed rest, and I stayed at home. I no longer went to work. At that time, I was in full-time ministry, but I stopped going to work, and I stayed at home, sleeping for 2 months. It wasn't a joke. And as I'm saying that, I know there are people who, because of some complications here and there, usually when they're pregnant, they're given bed rest for the whole 9 months. It is not an easy thing. When you see someone who is on bed rest, kindly support them in every way that you can, because it is not an easy moment. It's a place where you wish you can wake up and go for a walk. You wish you can wake up and go to work. You wish you can wake up and do your house chores. You will see the house being dirty, but daktari alisema ulale, so you just have to stay in bed. It's so tiresome. It is so tiresome. I know many times we desire to rest, but when it comes to that point, unatamani tu kuamka utoke kwa your bed. But the 2 months were not easy. I even had to stay with my mother-in-law for some time because I also didn't have blood. My HB was really low, so I had to go stay with her for 2 weeks, and she cooked for me a lot. She made sure I ate a lot of terene, manavu. And they were the kind where she didn't even kata. She would get them from the shamba and just come and cook them. And I was with my sister-in-law because she had also gotten her firstborn baby. So she would make us for those mamboga. And I'm telling you, in the span of less than a month already, I had regained, because at that time my blood was at level 6. By the time I was done staying with her, I think they'd gone me 11, which was now okay, where even if I got my baby at that time, I wouldn't need to like a blood transfusion. So that was really nice, and I really thank God for my mom-in-law. She has been a blessing to us. She has been such a support to our marriage and to our family, and we pray that God will grant her a long life in Jesus' name. So the 2 months went really fast. At that time, it felt like it was taking years because it was really difficult, and I really desired to go back to my life. But I knew the baby needed me to rest. So I got to 9 months, and for some reason, I was still not getting labor pains. So I went to the hospital, and when I got to the hospital, they were like, they added me an extra 2 weeks. So wakaniambia juu haujapata uchungu, you have to wait for 2 more weeks. So I didn't have a choice. I went and I waited for the 2 weeks. So the 2 weeks came and they were gone, and still nothing was happening. So I went back to the hospital, and I even remember that day when I went to that hospital like it was yesterday. I even remember the matatu that I took, and kuna venye tu tulipitana na huyo ndere kidogo, because he stood, someone was alighting before my stage, and it wasn't far from now the next one where I wanted to alight, and he got pissed off, akaongea tu vitu funny tu hapo, but nikashuka tu, and I'm like, okay, ni sawa. Nikashuka tu, nikaenda hosi, and the baby was still kicking even when I was in the car. When I went and they were doing checkups on me, the baby was still jumping up and down, and kalikuwa kana kick vizuri. But now when I go to the hospital, they're like, since ujafunguka njia and you still don't have labor pains, what you would need to do is put you under wanike maji wani-induce uchungu. And at that time, atukiambiwa na-induce uchungu, I could not understand what it meant, but out of experience from that time, now I know it wasn't an easy thing, it wasn't a nice thing. It was really painful because they had to induce me for a whole 23 hours. It was the longest 23 hours of my life, because when you compare to uchungu induction and the normal labor pain, the normal labor pain is manageable, because now it comes and goes in intervals. But now when it comes to this other one, induction, if it is 23 hours, it is 23 hours of non-stop pain. because I even got to a place na ninauliza, what kind of pain are we waiting for? Because I had felt all the pain I had never felt in my entire life, but they kept on telling me, bado tunangoja, and I could not understand tunangoja nini. But unfortunately, after the 23 hours, I think my baby just got tired in the womb and he just died in the womb. But now, on my side, I didn't understand that the baby had died, because I remember the nurse telling me, akiniambia, Mama, let us have faith in God. And me, I'm like, I don't know why we're having faith in God. If anything, I was already pissed off at them. I was already pissed off at God. I was already pissed off at everyone, because like I'm wondering, kama ni uchungu tunangojea, I've been feeling pain for 23 hours. How come? Like, mnaniambia bado. I didn't know, like, because I had not been there before. I didn't know, hata ukiambiwa njia ifunguke, you don't understand itafunguka aje, it was a new thing for me. But anyway, after the 23 hours, they kept on like monitoring the baby so closely. And unfortunately, the hospital that I was in did not have a theater. So when they realized that the baby was no longer breathing, that they could not feel the fetal heart, it was already too late, but they didn't tell me. So finally time came for me to go to the delivery room, and we went and I pushed the baby out. But the whole time they were just telling me, we're having faith in God. But I didn't understand, we're having faith in God to do what? Why are we having faith in God? Me, I just want this baby to come out of me, number one, to so that I can just enjoy him or her. At that time, I didn't even know if I was carrying a boy or a girl. So I did not understand. But by the time, before the baby was born, I remember I got to a place, and in my spirit, I had decided a different name. But just before, probably like a few minutes, like 5 minutes before he came out, I remember me calling the baby Samuel, and I started to call him Samuel. I started to say, Samuel, you are blessed. Samuel, you are coming out. So, and I started to say, Samuel, I am giving you back to God. At that time, I didn't know why I was giving him back to God. But now that I'm grown in the things of God, I know that I was returning him to God. For me, at that time, I was thinking I'm giving him to God for the same way Hannah gave Samuel to God for him to serve him in the temple. That is what was in my mind at that particular time. But I didn't know I was giving him back to God because he had already left, or he was in the process of going, or he would go. So that was it. And he came out, and when she was born, I thank God because there were friends who were there. I had a lady, Sue Muhuni, I love her. I thank God for her for that time. That she really stood with us. She never left the hospital the whole time. My husband was there. My pastors were there. As in, people who loved me were there for me at that time when I really needed it. So the baby came out, and now I'm like, hey, thank God he's born. But now he could not cry. He didn't cry. So they tried to do everything. They tried to clean his nose, his mouth. They tried everything they could. But me, I'm just there wondering, Bonaldi. As in, I think I was really young. Young people right now, I think they are way more advanced in these things, in a way that even when they are going through these processes, wanakuwa like they are aware of what is happening. But me, number one, I've never been social media kind of a person. Hey, Jesus, let me turn back. So I've always been a private person. I've always been, I'm an introvert. I thank God because of helping me to be out there because of people and because of ministry, but I'm an introvert. So mi ni wale watu wa kujifungia kwa nyumba, and I'm quiet by myself, and I'm okay. I'm all good with that. But now, so when things like that were happening before, even when I was pregnant, I had not thought of going to like online to go do a research so that probably I could see how people deliver, when babies come out, what happens. So even when the baby is not crying, on the other side, when the nurses are trying to work on him, I didn't even know that the worst had happened. So they tried everything, and finally they came and told me, we lost him. And me, I'm like, we lost him how? I could not understand. It was pain that you cannot explain. It was really hard. It was really hard because you don't expect to carry a baby for a whole 9 months, and then you go to a hospital, and then you're not able to come back with them. I know it's been long. It's been such a long time. It's been like probably 14 years, but still, those are things that you don't get over. Those are things that when you relive, you always find yourself like going back to the pain. So I'm there like tunashangaa what's happening. Sasa wameniambia we lost him and that is that. And so I just cried and cried and cried. I could not stop crying. And I think that the reason why for me it was okay, apart from many other reasons, number one, as I said earlier, I love children. I love children with all of my heart. If I was given permission to have like 10, I would like gladly, I would be so happy because I love them, you know. So, and then I think since I can remember, probably in 2000, I have always been a Sunday school teacher, you know, taking care of God's children, taking care of people's children, you know, just loving on them, being there for them, teaching them, showing them the love of God. So I expected when I got to that place when now it was my turn for me to receive this bundle of joy, I did not expect for God to allow that to happen. So it was really hard. There were people there comforting me, because I remember like them, even before they could finish cleaning me up, before they could even finish like you know, like the things that they do in the delivery room, my spiritual mom was there, Pastor Kathy. She was already there. I remember akiingia kwa mlango and they were telling her, Mama, ngoja huko. No, together with the other people. But it really felt good to see her. It really felt good to have people around me that could comfort me at that time. So anyway, everything was done and I was taken back to the ward and I stayed there. And it was on a Saturday afternoon. So the following day on Sunday, it was announced in church and we really got really good support from church, JCC Nakuru. We got so much support. They took care of everything. They took care of the bills. They took care of the burial permit, everything that was needed for to bury the baby, to clear the hospital bill, and all the nitty-gritties. And so on Saturday, we stayed in the hospital on Saturday, on Sunday, and then the burial was on Monday. The amazing thing that probably happened that I knew was of God, because this hospital did not have a mortuary. So they did not take my baby to any other mortuary. The baby just stayed in the delivery room. Because I remember one of the nurses who was attending to me at that time, I remember before they left for that shift that evening, she came to me, one of them, and she prayed for me. And she said, God, as this woman is still in this hospital, no other woman will come to deliver in this hospital. They will go to medical, to Medi in Nakuru. They will go to Medi, they will go to any other hospital. But as long as she is here, no other pregnant woman will come to this hospital. She prayed it and it was so. Because before I was admitted, like before getting the baby, I found like probably like 3-4 women who delivered before me and were discharged. But after I got the baby, there was no other woman who came. I stayed there from Saturday afternoon, Sunday alone, and then on Monday. But I wasn't like alone per se. Like my husband was there, Sue Mohoni was there, Susan Mohoni was there, and other ladies, other people would come in and go out. So there was no point where I was alone. So even when I would go to the washroom, I would go to the washroom and then would use another door that led me to the delivery room, and I would go just lap on my baby, just look at the baby, just admire the fingers, the toes, the eyes, the nose. And for some reason, that baby did not even smell. You know, there was no funny smell. There was nothing. Yes, he got cold, but after some time, but everything was just in order. And come Monday, after everything was finalized, we went to bury the baby. I think it was in South Cemetery in Nakuru. We went to bury the baby, and I was able to give the baby the best. I remember when it came to time to dressing him, the nurses were telling me, "Ata nisimvalishe kitu ya maana because I'll have more babies." And I'm like, whatever I wanted the baby to leave the hospital with, that is what I wanted the baby to be buried with. Maybe if it were now, God forbid, it won't happen again. Probably I would have reserved those things, but I gave him the best. I buried him in a beautiful baby show. It was new. I had made mittens, some nice socks, some nice clothes. We gave him the best. The burial was really hard that Monday. My family members came, my mom, my aunt, my bro, and other relatives were there, and we did the burial, and that was it. So that was baby number one. And we're going home. I remember my dad and mom, Pastor Andrew and Kathy Mwangi, like asking us to go stay with them. But we already had people at home who had already cooked, and we needed to go back home so that we could like now continue mourning with them. So that was it, and it happened, and it was over with. And I thought it was done, but it wasn't done. It was so hard. And when people lose their loved ones, the loss, when the loss happens, and during the mobility and all of that, you feel the pain. Yes, you feel the loss, but when the burial is done, that is when now you realize that it has happened. I went to the hospital with a baby who was kicking. I went to the hospital with a baby who had overstayed in my stomach for two extra weeks. But now, me going back home with a flat tummy, because I was a young girl, so I was tiny, so I had a flat tummy. Me going back with a flat tummy, me going back to that house where I could see the baby cot. A lady from church had given us a baby cot. I had decorated, not an extra room, but in our room, I had decorated the baby's corner. So seeing the baby's clothes, it was really hard. It was harder than I thought that it could be. But now in my head, all I kept on desiring is for me to conceive again, so that now I could now try to come out of what had happened and move on to what God had for me. But I remember before leaving the hospital, the nurses kept on telling me, you cannot conceive now. And me, I was just telling them, I want to conceive now, so that nijua kengine kana grow ndani yangu, and probably to give me some comfort. But they discouraged me from it, and they said, if you conceive immediately, then you will end up losing even the one that you'll conceive, because your womb will not have healed. So they gave me 4 months to go heal. And then after 4 months, I would be okay to try and conceive again. So that is what I did, exactly 4 months on the dot. And then exactly 4 months on the dot, I was pregnant again. And it was really nice to know that I was pregnant, but we were still hurting. We were still hurting a lot. We were still hurting differently. For me, I was crying a lot. Like I was crying every day, every night. I was ever crying, as in ungeona mapua yangu ilikuwa inakanika niko na sunburns because of crying and crying. But I remember after 1 month, Pastor Andrew, my dad, he sent my husband and said, go tell Teacher Kate. I was a Sunday school teacher. He said, go tell Teacher Kate to come back to church. And going back to church was torture. It was torture because I was still the leader in children's church. It was torture seeing children in church. It was torture having to answer all their tiny questions. It was torture having to explain to them how come I didn't come with the baby. They could ask me, Teacher Kate, you had a baby in your stomach. Where's the baby? Having to explain to them things that they didn't understand at that time. And then, when it's for grown-ups, when you're explaining to grown-ups, you'll explain once the story is shapo. But for kids, they will ask every Sunday. Today they will ask, Sunday they will ask, the following Sunday they will ask, the other one they will ask because they don't understand. A different one will ask today. 2 minutes later when you're teaching, one of them will be lifting their hands and they're like, Teacher Kate, where is your baby? And you're like, really, it was really hard. But I didn't go to teach immediately. I had to take some time off. But even me meeting church members, it was still really hard because everyone has that look of wishy. I understand why they were wishing me, but it wasn't helping. So I couldn't even pray in church. My work was to cry. I was just crying to God, trying to understand where God was when that happened. How come He allowed? Why He did not repay me for the work that I had done in taking care of other children. Yeah, it happened. So I remember probably like a few months later, there's another lady. She's a pastor now, Pastor Perpetua in JCC Lubumbashi. I remember we were carrying, like our pregnancies had been at the same time, like we conceived almost the same time. We carried our pregnancies the same time. So we would compare notes on where are you, how are you feeling, what are you eating, what are you not eating, things like that. Did you go for clinic? How many kilos is the baby? How many kilos have you added? Things like that. We walked the whole journey together. So I remember the day when she came back to church. It was another torturous day. I wished I wasn't even there. But I remember, like, I would stand at the back so that we would watch the babies, like the kids in children's church. So I remember just standing back and seeing Pastor Perpetua coming, carrying her baby on a baby carrier. And I broke down. I wasn't jealous of her, but like I was imagining I would have also come back to church the same time, and I cried. I was in that place of wondering, do I go say hi to her? Do I ignore her? What do I do? How do you carry yourself in such a place, So, but I remember it as clear as day, I remember it as if it happened yesterday. I remember God whispered to my spirit and he said, am I not to you more than 10 sons? And that was it. God asked me, am I not to you more than 10 sons? And he gave me peace like a river. He gave me so much peace. That peace that is kind of confusing. Because 1 minute you want to cry, the next minute it gives you so much peace and you can't even explain it. You can't understand it. It broke me even the more, and the tears went, and I got so much peace, and I went to say hi to her. And I met her at the door, and I loved on her. I loved on her baby. The baby, I believe it's Medad, the firstborn. I loved on Medad, and he had a yellow baby, a very handsome baby boy. So now God allowed me to be able to receive them with love without that pain of feeling, God, how come I'm not in such a place? So that passed, and I cried a lot. I remember I cried for a whole year, every night, not understanding, asking God many questions I don't think he has ever answered. Maybe he will answer later when you go to heaven. But I thank God for peace. I thank God for healing my heart. I thank God for it's in the past. As much as when I speak about it, I still feel the pain somehow. I thank God that it's in the past. But now when it came to my husband, for him, he got really bitter with God. Me, I would cry. I cried so much to the point that alikuwa ananibembeleza siku za kwanza, baby, it's gonna be well, Paul, and all of that. Until he got to a place and he's like, akaachana na mimi, because he now got used to coming to bed, finding me cry. I would cry and cry. There's a secular song that says, cry me a river. I would cry me a river. I cried, and my bed was full of tears. And I'm a cry baby, by the way. So I cried and cried and cried until I could not stop but cry. So anyway, going back, 4 months later, I conceived again, and God blessed us. And it was really, it was a beautiful thing, but it was full of, that information gave us mixed feelings.